All right, home stretch. One more panel, recognition session, a little bit of networking. And I think one of the reasons why I really wanted to be part of this particular session is because after that, we could tip the scales on the personal life and do the casino thing and the dinner thing, spend time with family. So I do like that. My name is Paul Fife. As she mentioned, I have about 1 year short of a 20-year career in marketing. I own an agency in Chicago, Illinois, and we cater to the nonprofit industry. That's what gets me up in the morning. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, spend a couple minutes just telling us what they do and who they are. So we'll start with you, Anna.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Anna Westlack. My company is creatively called Westlack and Associates, but it's what I do. I'm a solo entrepreneur and an independent contractor. I do seminar training and workshop facilitation on interpersonal relations and communication skills, which means I help people play nice together at work. So we use an assessments-based approach. We help people identify their strengths, where they have the greatest opportunity to give to their organization, and then how we use those strengths to become more productive and understand the others that they're working with.
Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.
Cindy?
My name's Cindy Murray. I am a MBA certified management accountant for over 25 years. I'm from Frankfort, Kentucky. Yes, I have a southern accent, and I'm very proud of it. So get that out of the way. I worked in state government for 33 years. Worked my way up through the ranks until my final position was Chief Financial Officer, $13 billion cabinet for Health and Family Services. I helped manage 7,500 people. But after that, I retired and knew I wasn't done, so I went out and got licensed as an insurance agent. I put my resume out on monster.com and came back and said that I was best suited as either a CDL truck driver or an insurance agent. So I went with the insurance agent. I've done that for about 7 years. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. Joseph.
Okay, I'm Joe Franke. I'm from Houston, Texas. Have 2 companies, JF3 Associates. It helps with career branding, career transition, and career development. I've coached people in the ranges of 14 years old all the way to 84. The bulk of my clients are 40-plus-year-olds trying to figure out what is next. I have experience in leading in the federal sector and in the private sector.
Thanks, Joseph. And Alan?
My name is Alan Krishnan. I'm from the great area of Washington, D.C. And I've worked in 5 continents. The only one I've not worked in is Australia. I started life in India. I started India's first customer loyalty program when that word did not even exist. And I started this when I was still a student, and it grew to be the world's largest philatelic club. We had 26,000 members at a time when there were no computers and no email. Old-fashioned, write a letter, put it in an envelope, put a stamp, and mail it. And this is a philatelic club, which for those who don't know, is the hobby of collecting postage stamps. And from there, I went to Africa. I worked in Rwanda, set up a textile plant, did a lot of import-export business from there. And then I worked in Zaire in Africa. And from there, I came to the United States, where I've been in Virginia all my life. Living in Virginia all my life, I've been in manufacturing, in retail, import-export, international trade. And my company, Team Up Corp, we focus on organizational strategy and growth, both for corporations, corps, and for not-for-profits. We also work with educational institutions. I've been on the Dean's Advisory Board at Boston University. I'm on the Board of Trustees of University of North America. And I also work with small businesses. So anything to do with growth is my passion. I'm much involved with not-for-profits, and that is an area which I find gives me more than anything else in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Why don't we all sit down, take a load off? As I suspect, most of you are at your senior level positions within your own companies, or the founders or presidents, CEOs, as are these fine folks. And I've had a chance to talk with them before the conference and gained so much insights, like I did with some of the panels that were before us. And the question is, I guess maybe I'll just pose it to you at first. How are you all doing with your personal and professional life balance? So if we could just show of hands that you think you're doing okay in that area. So, okay. One or two. How many think they're doing really great? All right. And how many think they can improve? Okay. So maybe we can have a few tips for you over the next 20 minutes, and we'll see, and also get us back on track a little bit too. So, Anna, I think I'll start with you.
Okay.
You at the senior level in your company. How do you balance your professional and personal work life?
Well, it's pretty easy to balance it as the senior leader in the company since I'm the only person in my company. So that's a good start. But seriously, I've run my company for 31 years. I started it my goal is that I would be a supplemental income in our family to help get 3 kids through college. They've all done that and very successfully, and I'm still doing what I do just because I have a passion for it and I enjoy what I do because I'm helping others to improve themselves. As far as separating personal from professional, as a solo entrepreneur with a home-based office, it gets difficult at times. There are days when sometimes it's blended where I hardly know if I'm doing something that is related to the family, to the business, or to a nonprofit organizational volunteer position that I have in the community. So it does get difficult at times, but I think a part of it is being able to compartmentalize and be able to schedule. This is time that this is the business, and between and to let other people know that. And I let my clients know I'm in the office from 9 until 5. If they call after 5, I may not respond until the next day. So I don't find any of my clients necessarily have emergency situations where they need open heart surgery now. So I'm able to say, I'll give you a call in the morning. I don't recommend 2 aspirin, but I do tell them I will call them within 24 hours. And so it allows me that opportunity to have the flexibility that I sought when I was beginning this business.
Nice. How many out there, just a quick poll, are solopreneurs? Okay. Of those solopreneurs, how many people think they got this knocked out with the work-life balance? None. Okay. Yeah, solopreneur is hard, right? Especially when you work out of the home. It's hard to separate that family life and professional life. So I'm going to toss it to you, Cindy. How do you do it?
Okay, this is just, it's my personal philosophy, but I think it's a good one. God first, family second, career third. If you can keep that in mind, no matter what you do, you're going to come out a winner. And there's no sense in being successful in a business if you don't have your family along with you too, because that's probably what you're doing it for. So my balancing, I have to be careful what I say because my husband's sitting right back there. So I was right now I work from home as an insurance agent, so it's really easy to balance personal and professional life. But when I worked for the legislature for 25 years overseeing the Health and Family Services budget, we put in 450 hours of overtime between Thanksgiving and April. And that can make it really difficult. Me and John, I've been married 25 years with them. Hope I get another 25 years. We had lots of communications anyway, back and forth. I would wait, and then they tried to keep us up there for a week straight without going home. I just waited till everybody went to sleep, and I snuck out at 4 a.m., went home to see my baby. We had an infant daughter. But yeah, it just, the work is definitely do your work and do what you were hired to do, and there's sometimes you have to make it a priority over your family and your personal life. But hopefully there's going to be an end to that like it was with us, and we could make up for it in between and do.
There are sprints, right? Because if it's a personal choice to say I'm going to work a 60-hour week, it's not a regularity, but it's a sprint that particular week. That's a personal choice if you want to choose to do that. And so I was having this debate with my wife earlier. She chooses to work from 6 in the morning till 5 at night. I choose to work from 9 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, 4 days a week. So it's a personal choice. And so the personal work balance is a very subjective thing. How about you, Joseph? How are you doing it?
The most important thing is I work for the federal sector and at the senior level, and there you just do what the organization expects you to do, you know, to get promoted and all of that types of stuff. Once I got into the private sector and got into the entrepreneur side of things, I knew exactly what I wanted or didn't want. So with the 2 companies that I have now and the third one I'm going to start, it's all designed into how's it going to work, you know, within the work-life balance. And so, for example, my wife loves taking trips, and so the only deal we have is she's the driver, and I work the computer and the headphones from the passenger seat of the car, and we go wherever she wants to go. The only requirement is there's got to be Wi-Fi at some point, you know, during the day. And so we've gotten a lot of things done that way. When you work at the corporate or the senior federal level, I mean, you are basically doing, you know, what the corporation expects, and you're rewarded for your potential in doing so.
So there's something to be said about working within the confines of structure as well, and taking
Right.
advantage of what you can
So,
take advantage of.
like most of us, I work from home. I save the morning time for yoga with my wife and work from 1 to 6 in the afternoon. And then, yes, you end up taking some phone calls, and I vector those back off, you know, to the future afternoons or evening. Or if it's just an emergency, well, you know, we'll make that decision and deal with it.
Yeah. Does anybody remember that Munchkin song from The Wizard of Oz? I get up at noon and get to work by 1, take an hour for a nap, and then by 2 you're done. I love that. Great. That's a great work ethic. Not really. Okay, Alan, how do you do it?
I'm doing wonderfully well. And what I would say, it's all a matter of how you define. For instance, we talk about personal and professional life. It's popularly called work-life balance. For me, it's very simple. Without the work or the professional, I have nothing personal or life. My whole life, my personal life, depends on my work. Now, when you talk of balance, again, it's a question of how you define balance. Are you talking about 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, or 9 to 6? Again, that's relative. Now, as I said, I started life out in India, and then I was in Africa. When I was in Africa, I was dealing with Hong Kong, which purchased materials for us. I was working with Belgium, which provides some other things from Europe, and they're all in different time zones, which means I may never work more than 50 hours in a week, but it's spread across the day. And I was in a manufacturing plant, in a textile manufacturing plant, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, someone comes knocking on my door. I have to wake up and rush to the factory because somebody had an accident and his thumb has been broken. Now I need to make sure I get him to a hospital and get the best possible care. And this is in Rwanda in Africa. Now in the United States, again, it's a global workforce. And in our own country, we have 4 different time zones. So it's all a matter of attitude and a matter of definition. And I'm very clear that when there is a need, I am there. And my life is perfectly balanced. For example, I would get a phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning from the British Embassy in Morocco because somebody went there for a visa on the strength of my letter invitation, and they're calling to check if this is genuine or it's fake. What do? I can't refuse the call. I take it, I answer, and satisfied. So to me, work-life balance in today is just work when you're needed, and other times, your life is there. And to me, working is my life, so balance is never the issue.
Well put, because a lot of us who are starting out in our careers also, you got to put in a lot more of the work than the personal life to get it off the ground. How many people here have employees? With a show of hands. Okay, about 20% of you. I started my journey 3 years ago, trying to, build the business and then pull back a little bit. One of the ways I did that was I hired an account manager. I was juggling 40 clients in a given month in a marketing agency. Everything went through me. I was like sort of the linchpin. That does not work when you try to scale. So hiring an account manager in a marketing business or somebody to help you, even if it means pinching those profits, totally worth it for us. The second thing I did was I hired an executive assistant because there's something that I call death by 1,000 cuts. Visa expired, which then cascaded the charge failures, or the license for software expired, or isn't renewed properly, or 1,000 things, right? And you get 500 emails a day, and how do you manage that? So an executive assistant definitely helped me with that. The third thing is I read a book called The 4-Hour Workweek. Not the 4-day, but the 4-hour workweek. And I'll never get there, but it is definitely an inspirational book in terms of delegating, and that's really what the book is about, delegating. But I also couldn't do it for myself without, for those of you who have employees, creating a culture of work-life balance amongst the workforce. So I did a couple of things. By the way, we're a certified B Corporation, so if you ever want to Google that, this goes into the tenets of what a B Corporation is. We developed a 4-day work week, so it doesn't mean 40 hours in 4 days, it means 32 hours in 4 days. Now, Fridays are treated like the weekend. If you have to work to get something out the door, you treat it like a Saturday and you have to do it. But the rule is it's a 4-day, 32-hour work week. The second thing we did is we did unlimited PTO. And I know a lot of people say unlimited PTO means you really can't take PTO. Well, if you think about it, if you have a 4-day work week, you already have 52 days off a year. Boom. Then you add 8 holidays, you've got 60 days off a year. Now with unlimited PTO, we require a mandatory 2 weeks off. Well, because we have a 4-day work week, it's only 8 days off. But now you've got 68 days off a year, and you can take more after that. Flex time and 100% remote. Now, I can't think of a better work-life balance than those 5 tenets in a workplace culture. We tried out this test 3 years ago. It hurt. We had to make some changes. One of the things we had to do is no more 1-hour meetings. If we can't discuss what we need to do in 30 minutes, then you do what's called asynchronous communication. So we've embraced Slack, we've embraced email, we've embraced any kind of asynchronous chat, which really is Slack. We'll have pre-meetings like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about, so the meetings can stick to 30 minutes. Meanwhile, these pre-conversations or these asynchronous communications could happen at any time during the day. We're still working out some of the kinks 3 years later, but attrition is way down for young marketing talent. Typical attrition rate is 3 to 5 years. We're now, well, it's a 3-year test, but we haven't lost anybody, and our longest employee is with us now 10 years. So I just wanted to put that out there, a couple of tips. Any questions on any of that? Okay, I'm going to ask, we're halfway through, so I'm going to ask some very specific questions, or one specific question each, just to get drilled down a little bit. Starting with Anna. I want to ask you about setting boundaries and prioritization and time management from a sole practitioner's perspective. What tools and techniques are helpful? 3 minutes.
Well, I've heard lots about communication on all the panels today. I think that's a really important piece. Let the people around you know what your boundaries are so that they can support that and support you. Let people know. Even I have 7 grandkids. I have 3 children and grown children and 7 grandkids. They all know if they're coming over and Grandpa greets them at the door and said, Grandma's working, they know to stay away from the office. They don't come by the office. They don't say hello. I'll hear them come and I'll go greet them as soon as I can. But they understand and they know that this is my work. And just because it's in my house, they respect that and want to know about it. They want to know it. And what is this? You're working, you're at home. And so it's a good lesson for them to learn as well. So I think, letting other people know so they can help you support those boundaries, letting them know, if this is my work day, it doesn't mean that I stop and put in a load of laundry. It doesn't mean that I stop and, start dinner because the roast goes in at 2 o'clock. These are things that don't happen if you happen to not be. When COVID came along and all of a sudden people were working from home and traumatized by that, I reassured them this works. It can work, and working with the people around you is a way to help make all of that work. So setting your boundaries and letting other people know what they are, I think, is one of the best ways to be able to stick with them.
Thanks. Thanks, Anna. I'm going to preface this next question because Cindy volunteered for this. So because we're in Vegas, the question is specifically about spousal partner relationships and exploring the impact of work-life balance on romantic relationships. What you do, what strategies do you use? I'm sorry, her husband's in the audience too, so we'll keep it clean.
He's fine with it. So I've been married a total of 40 years. My first husband, the marriage ended after 17 years, and part of it was because of my job. You know, I had spent too much time, plus he was cheating on me, and he did some other stuff that he shouldn't have been doing. But now, you know, while I was working during the legislature, you know, John and I understood. Well, for one thing, he met me when I was working for the legislature, so he can't complain. He didn't know what he was getting into. So, yeah, lots of communication back and forth, and he always knew, you know, that as soon as they cut us loose, I was going to come straight home, made my lunch for me every day, and every night when I went home, I might not get home till 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or whatever. He was standing there in the garage waiting for me. So, and, you know, but now, with me working from home, and he's still working some, yeah, I've got a lot more flexibility with my hours now. I hate to kind of make up for the times I wasn't there. I was looking, so right now we have 9 dogs. We take in rescue animals, and a rescue parakeet, and how many kittens have we got right now, John? 3? Yeah. So, you know, like I said, God first, family second, career third. I don't think there was anybody laying on their deathbed that said, I wish I could have worked longer. And I looked that up to see if that was accurate, and my sister-in-law was a hospice nurse for a long time. Now, they do say that they wish they could have spent more time with their loved ones. So, you know, that's just what we got to keep in mind. And, you know, right now, my family comes first. I do my work when I can, and I'm good at it. I do. I'm successful. But like I said, your work isn't important if you don't have somebody to share it with. That's just how I feel.
Well put, well put. Joseph, the question next goes to you. Always on culture, right? Phones, even asynchronous communication, the beeps. You heard my watch go off twice already. Exploring the expectation of constant availability, responsiveness in today's digital age. How can senior leaders set boundaries and encourage their teams to do the same?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I have no problem hitting that little go to voicemail button, you know, and then when I have time, I go through that, prioritize, and everything else, because a lot of times I might be working with another individual, so I can't, you know, stop what I'm doing right then and do it. And so the most important thing is whoever you're working with knows that they're going to get, you personally are going to get back with them through their desired method of communication. And I think it's important to take the calls but not respond to them at that particular thing. If they immediately goes to voicemail, they know that I've pushed that voicemail button. And so I haven't personally had any problems with it, but I'm working, probably the bulk of my clients are 40-plus-year-olds, right when they're trying to figure out what's next.
So you have a methodology of compartmentalizing, but you've also set expectations.
Well, for example, if my wife and I are out to dinner somewhere, then that's her time on the clock. But to me, if I ignore the call, that's one thing. If it immediately goes to voicemail, that's saying that I acknowledge it and I'm going to get back with you in due time. They all know, my clients know me. You call me 3 times in a row and I'll drop what I'm doing and call you back. But if it's not, the bottom falling out of the world, you're
It
going
better
to.
not be. when you
Yeah,
get down, right?
I mean, I don't have any problem coming across the phone, and doing that.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, as we were all talking about personal and professional, I think it's really important to treat our personal life as seriously as we do our business. One of the things that I found out, and I've been married even longer than Cindy, so I'm not going to even mention it, we found that we weren't scheduling time for ourselves. And once we realized that, and it wasn't so much we weren't scheduling, what we did is schedule to resolve the issue. We weren't spending enough time together. And so we sat down with a calendar and said, this is a good night to go out to dinner. This is a good time to go to a movie. This is a good time to take a vacation. And once we started doing that, it really helped to improve our personal time because we didn't feel like we were just kind of doing it because there wasn't anything necessarily to do, but it was a special time.
Thank you for that. Well, take us home, Ellen. My question to you is the loneliness at the top, discussing the potential isolation and lack of peer support that can be experienced at the senior level. How do you combat that?
This is a tough one. And again, it's a function of how one puts it together. The key is this: anyone who is at the senior level, the assumption is you have a team of people. And as one of my panelists mentioned, it's all about setting expectations and empowering them to do what they need to be doing. If the previous panel was talking about something about if you're the smartest person in the room, I don't believe they said it, but it means you're in the wrong room. You need to be in a room where there are people, not one person smarter than you in one area, but everyone smarter than you in some other area, or you don't have a real team. At today's wage levels, if you're hiring people, telling them what to do, how to do, when to do, I wonder if you realize what kind of an idiot you are throwing your money away. If you're paying somebody $7.50 an hour and giving them an accounting job, of course you got to be managing them, but then you got the wrong person. But if you have an accountant who is qualified, certified, and you're paying him $130,000 a year, you need to set goals and sit back and listen to him and do whatever he presents to you and ask questions. So the loneliness at the top comes only when you try to dominate, and most of your team wonders when on earth, and I am being polite, when on earth you're going to leave them alone and let them do their jobs. Because nobody wants you looking over their shoulder all the time. If anyone in this room wants to be supervised every minute of the day, I would seriously suggest speak with me. I'll find you a good psychiatrist whom you need to speak with. I have 6, 8, 10-year-olds in my life, and they like to do what they want to do. They don't want to be told everything. And when our children were growing up, my rules were very simple. Do whatever you want, study whenever you want, pick whatever courses you want. I have only one rule for my daughter who was 16 and drove. If you don't sleep by midnight today, you don't drive tomorrow. Because safety is one thing you don't compromise. And that continues. And as your employees and co-workers are all adults, so that's not an issue at all. You have to respect them. Let them make mistakes. And then you help them. Show them how that mistake could have been avoided and how they could do better. And following this lifestyle, I've never ever felt lonely at the top. I've had companies with 10,000 employees. I've had companies with 5 employees. And it's always been fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everyone. Just to bring this home, and then we'll end it a little bit before schedule. How about that? One of the things that I find that helps that loneliness, and especially for entrepreneurs, that loneliness at the top. 2 things that has helped me. One is a mastermind group. There's almost one in every profession. There's probably 8 or 9 of them that are out there for marketing companies, marketing entrepreneurs. But whether you're in accounting or IT services, on that entrepreneurial level, there are mastermind groups. So you're going to meet 75 people or so that are facing the same problems. And what you can learn in 6 months, like what is an average commission structure for a salesperson or business development person, or how do I break down benefits? What's a QSERA? All these questions that you would have in the first 10 years of business, or things that you could be doing better to maximize profits. Huge help. The other thing, definitely extol the benefits of a business coach. And there's tons of them out there. Some of them specialize in certain industries. Others have just been in business so long they could pretty much coach you through just about anything, whether it's downsizing staff, growing, HR, et cetera. So things that have helped me in the last 19 years. Business coach, I only learned about in the last probably 10, and I wish I'd learned that sooner. So with that, we're going to end this, but I'm going to throw it, if there's any questions out there, yes.
I want to know what the panel, any of you think about the ongoing debate of the work from home and return to office scenarios, and why the majority of companies want people to return to office when the majority of employees prefer to work from home and found their balance in that. I think I'm done.
Okay, I think we heard that, yeah.
I'll return the mic to you.
Okay, I'll take a shot at that. I'm consulting with the CEO right now, and they're going through those decisions. And so when we went through everything, they have about 50 programmers that are working from home. The programmers are responsible for software which is not working on a battery management system. And, you know, the bottom line is I don't think they're working for the company. I think they're working a bunch of odd jobs, you know, because they can. You know, it's one thing to be delivering what your company needs. It's another thing to be not delivering it and not want to come back to work. In this case, they were out on the West Coast, and, you know, the recommendation was, really, if you want this company to survive, you need to move it, you know, somewhere to the South or Southwest where there's a work ethic, you know, everybody's used to, you know, company does what a company does, and if the company wants you on site, you know, so they would have to reculturize in order to be successful.
I would add a point to that. During COVID, everyone started working from home. And my wife does income taxes. And by the end of the first year, she's blown away. She says, oh my God, this client of mine is coming with 3 W-2s. And not part-time, they're full-time jobs. So because you're working from home, I take a job with him, work, not contract, job with him, and him. And then I have my child who's there, who's capable of doing work. I have somebody overseas who's capable. I outsource it to them. They do everything, send it to me, I review it, and I file it. So I get 3 W-2s, I make $400,000 a year. My child anyway gets boarding and lodging, I give her $20,000, and give the guy overseas $30,000, and I make a princely income. And that's why many people don't want to come back to work in the office, because this romance will end.
So thank you. That is my point exactly. Now, when the employee has found his work-life balance, has managed to do whatever with 3 W-2s, and is still fine with it, isn't it the problem of the company that they've not been able to create a culture that attracts people to want to work for them, and they've got to be slave-driving people and looking at, looking at people who are from the South, Southwest, whatever that was, just to make up for their inadequacies? Is that where we are headed? Is that right?
Well, think about the person you just described. Okay, that person's capable of 3 W-2s. Well, they have just learned that they're probably one of the best candidates for being a solopreneur that I've ever seen, because they are conducting their business as a solopreneur. The company only sees the W-2 that, you know, work that they're doing, and then they've got these 2 other jobs. I would say, well, maybe you shouldn't be working for that company. Maybe you should start your own company, or maybe you should take over a division of this other company where somebody sees the potential. The problem is the three companies do not see the potential of this worker, right? Because they just see their lane. And the reason that lane is not expanded is because if he expands that lane, then everybody finds out, you know, it's a house of cards. He's really working for three companies. So people that I've ended up counseling that have done at least 2 W-2s, I said, hey, you know, rather if you don't like what you're doing, let's go. You were really good in this area. Why don't you take one job, start building your entrepreneur business on the side, and you know, take off with it. But morally and ethically, you know, you shouldn't be working for 2 people, because when you sign all those documents, a lot of these companies say you're the sole employed.
So I'll just take half a minute. You brought up a very important point, and those of you who follow international news would know that 2 of the leading companies in India, their top chairmen, CEOs, former CEOs, said, of course you should work 60 or 70 hours a week. What are you going to do? Go sit at home and watch your wife's face? They said it casually, meaning be available on call when needed, because in senior position you need to be. But like many people, they spoke out of turn. First of all, watch your wife's face. What about the women? There's less to watch in the men's face, and it's an assault on them. Second, now, leaders in the United States have forgotten that we are in the United States, not in some strange country. We have a Department of Labor, which has not yet been shut down. Nobody said they're going to shut it down yet. But they expect people to work 60 hours a week? Where are we headed? That's the problem. Yes, sir, you got it.
No, I mean, I think that's a great point, Alan. That's a great point, Alan, because I was just going to bring that up. You know, I'm taking a counter example where companies essentially expect you to work 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. I've personally worked with those companies. If you've done Follow the Sun Global Consulting, that's exactly what they do. My team members worked until 3 in the morning, India time. And I used to look at my watch and I used to ask her, what are you doing? You know, you have a little child, don't you have a family? Why are you still there? You know, and the expectation, so there is something, by the way, I know we have a Department of Labor here, but even advanced countries like Japan, they have a term for death by overwork. It's called karoshi. Okay, so people actually die of overwork in developed countries like Japan. And the expectation is that, and you know, my question, to cut this short, is what happens when you work for a company where the expectation is you're going to work long hours? And that's how we get ahead. And I want to, you know, I either die or I leave the company. How do I change that culture?
Alan, I think I'm going to let you answer that privately because we're getting the hook real quick. So thank you, everyone, for giving us some time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.